bids are in, the gavel's dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right, this is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine auctions, wine retail, and just wine. With me, as always, is our wine expert, Paul Walker, and you can tell because he's got his wine expert haircut on today. Wine experts part their hair just as he does. Anyway, today's episode is going to be dedicated to sort of an auction recap. We're going to walk through what we saw happening at the auction and, how that may have broader impacts in the market or not. Let's start off with the stuff that we saw get a lot of action. So the sort of the big movers. We had a lot of action on this non-vintage Pierre Lauer Reserve 84, which I believe we discussed.
Yeah, it was in the week before, right?
It was in like the week before.
Yeah.
And then this week, all of a sudden, 12 bids, 40, starts at $40, goes up to 86. I think the week before you could have gotten it for 40.
Yeah, I think
I don't
you're
know.
right.
I have to take a look at that.
It was I think it was a different disgorgement or something like that, like a slightly different wine, but yeah, very similar.
Very similar stuff. But I don't know. Peter Lauer seems to be on the rise, We have non-vintage Cerbaionia.
Oh, Cerbaionia. Yeah, it's good stuff. And it did. I mean, there was a bunch of it and it all sold, right? Like
it all sold. It was like $15.
Yeah, it was a good deal.
It was a good deal. Wasn't crazy. Yeah, we had like 26 bottles. All of it sold. We had some this 06 Domaine Fourier Gevrey Chambertin. 6 bids took from 85 to 120.
Yeah, I mentioned this wine because it stood out as being a deal, and I think I might have even said so. But
so basically, you're responsible for it not being a deal.
Well, 120 is still not bad. Fourier is very expensive now. Secret was out years ago, but it's still relatively. I mean, it's appellation, but not terrible. I think it'll go up from there as the years go by.
2010 Belland and Meneret Sauterne went from 25 to 37 after 5 bids. I believe this is one that we had talked about a little bit. We didn't mention it on the podcast, but I think you and I have a conversation about
Yeah, this was discussed in a prior auction.
But so definitely some action on that one. We had some 2016 Branchia El Bleu, 5 bids. Branchia from 55 to 61. A little bit of action there. So a lot of action at sort of the lower end of the auction. Not a ton of like high spenders getting a lot of action this auction. 2012 Claude Casals Grand Cru Blanc de Blancs Brut La Chapelle du Clos 45.
That was cheap. That was one that was considerably less than the other 2 Casals that were in the auction, and it got bid up where it belonged. I think
83 is where it ended up hammering.
Yeah, which is still not terrible. It's great champagne producer, so it wasn't too bad.
I want to point out that the 2018 Corzon sold after 5 bids. I mean, it only went up to like 77. We had 3 bottles. I thought that was pretty interesting to see that Corzon sell. It's some delicious stuff. One that had a big jump was the 2018 Domaine Nicolas Forêt Nuit Saint-Georges Les Herbois. I know I'm butchering that. 5 bids took it from 365 to 555.
Yeah, interestingly, this wine, I don't believe it was 18, but Nicolas Faure is like a kind of a culty, I want to say, natural wine producer in Burgundy. And I believe there was 19 in that we mentioned about a month ago, and the 19 hammered at 505. So not surprising that the 18 hammered, even higher at 550. Was it 555?
Mm-hmm.
555. Yeah, that's hard to find stuff. So it's, I think it'll just kind of continue to creep up in price as the days go by. But that's rare stuff and cult following.
We have some 03 Ghislaine Barthaud. Ghislaine. That's what I said. Barthaud Chambois Moussini Lebaude. Started at 75. 5 bids took it to 140. So another one that you see nearly
Yeah, I mean, $75 for any vintage of Barto is inexpensive, especially Premier Crucian will losing you. But the 03, it's a controversial vintage, as I always say, but still, it's fantastic, fantastic producer. Actually, I think if you tune into our future episode, there's mention of some Barto Bourgogne in this week. I might be thinking of something else, but I'm pretty sure there's some 09s. Anyway, we'll get to it. But yeah, great wine, and not surprising, still not terribly expensive at $140. So
let's switch over to some of the heavy hitters. We had a 09 12 bottle lot OWC of La Maison Aubryon sell for $6,840 after one bid. We had an 03 6-liter Lafite Rothschild for $5,640. And I just want to say thank you in advance for that lovely birthday gift. I really, really appreciate that.
Well, as I said, 03, controversial vintage, so you may hate it.
I may hate it.
It's controversial in Burgundy and controversial in Bordeaux. Well, no, Bordeaux 03s are great.
And controversial on this podcast, apparently. A 1989 Petrus, we had sell for $3,800.
Yeah, that was funny because there was one right prior. We talked about this wine, I think, a week ago, and did sell for the same hammer. I was going to look it up just to see, because there were two just in succession, or maybe skipped a week or two. I can't remember. Yeah, 514 and 521, 3,800 both weeks. So not surprising. And they both were in just for a week.
95 DRC Latache sold for $34.75.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. 62 Petrus sold for $3,400. So, you could have saved $400, and instead of the 89, you could have gotten 62. Although I'm guessing you're going to tell me that that 89 is quite a bit better than the 62.
It's a better vintage for sure. Yeah. I would buy the 89 for a little bit more.
Now, one of our favorites to watch, 2010 Screaming Eagle Sauvignon Blanc, that went out for $3,000.
And went out, so it didn't hang out for long.
No, didn't hang out for long. And then the 08 Macedo 3-liter went for $2,755. And I believe we mentioned this.
Yeah, mentioned it when it was new, or whatever, first up in the April 30th auction. But yeah, it didn't take long for that thing to move.
We had a 06 Screaming Eagle Cab Sav for $2,680, 13 Screaming Eagle Cab Sav for $2,570. And then we had a 11 DRC Grand Echezot sell for $2,400. Not a lot of like competitive bidding, I think, at the high end of stuff, with the exception of 2017 Opus 1 6-bottle lot OWC, started at $1,800, went for $2,200.
Yeah.
4 bids. And then, also a lot like Mag of 2010 Latour went for $2,190. Actually, no, $2,090. We sold 2 of those. And Scarecrow WC 3-bottle lot went for $2,010. A lot of big stuff moving this week. Anything in particular you want to mention before?
Yeah, there are actually a few things, just because I know we kind of collect data anyway as a company, and it's always fun to see, things compared to external auctions that have beaten external auction records, at least from what we can see that's available. And 17 Bond, there was a 4-pack. Wood case hammered at 1935. There was 14 Bond at 425, St. Eden, which I thought was quite a bit. I think we actually mentioned this. So those keep going up and up and up. There was a 16 St. Eden hammered at 470. And then we had the Palacios La Faraona, which are crazily expensive. And the 18 hammered at 680, big numbers for this stuff, 19 at 570. There was a bottle of 03, speaking of 03 Burgundies, Truchot Martin, must have gotten, I think it was added late. And I did want to make mention, always check after, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A lot of wines can be added that aren't necessarily mentioned on the podcast. And so they are always, fun to find. I would have probably brought this wine up if it was in, I think, on Sunday or Monday. But anyway, Jackie Truchot Martin, Maurice Saint-Denis Clos Sor Vieille Vigne, hammered at 900. Rare stuff that's obviously no longer available. And let's see, there was a series of Lamy Cayat wines, which you mentioned, and all of them received multiple bids, actually. The La Romanée 18 at 725, the 17 Cayere hammered at 745, the Champgan hammered at 18 Champgan hammered at 725. And then there was a crazily expensive champagne in last week, 208 Marie Noël Ledru Blanc de Noir Cuvée du Gould hammered at 530, which is wild. All on 2 more, 11 Promontory hammered at 750, which is quite a number, especially for an 11 Napa cab, but it's the Harlan Empire. And then 2020 Groffier Chambolle Les Amoureuses hammered at 665. So I did want to mention those standouts this week.
All right. And with that concludes our wine auction recap from Finally Hammered at WineBid. This has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.